Hi guys, today I just want to do a lesson over Wes Montgomery's famous octave lines. The example today comes from his solo over Gone with the Wind from his album The Incredible Jazz Guitar of Wes Montgomery. In this video we'll be taking apart his lick, talking about some tips how to physically play octave lines, and then talk about how we can put his lick and the ideas we covered back into our own playing and improvisation. To get the most out of this video you'll need some basic knowledge on chord tensions or extensions, enclosures, and guide tones. If you like this lesson, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. It really helps me out. Also, make sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Let's just get right on into it. Okay, I want us just to ignore the fact that Wes plays this in octaves. We'll get on to some tips on how to do that in a bit. The thing that took me a really long time to understand is that single note lines and octave lines are the same. The only difference is how you execute it. Yes, there are some lines that would be more difficult to play in octave form versus single note lines, but the core of it, the language, the identity of it, is the same between the two. With that out of the way, let's look into what Wes is doing in his line. The line in focus today is played over a fundamental 2-5-1 chord progression in the key of G. Let's take a look at it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here it is, played a bit slower. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I love the way this line flows. It glides up to a nice chord tone and then resolves on an extension. The crazy thing about this is Wes is just treating this line as 1 instead of 2-5-1. The reason this sounds so good is because of guide tones. A guide tone line is a line that uses small intervallic motion to guide a melodic statement to an ending point. Our guide tone line here is D, C, B flat, and A. He starts by walking down to C and then jumping to B flat, which is our blue note. After that, he changes gears and goes up to the A instead of going down. Lastly, we have a G major 7 arpeggio starting on the 7th, but instead of landing on a usual chord tone, 1, 3, 5, or 7, he lands on a 13th, which adds some nice texture to the line and gives it some interest at the end. So now that we took apart Wes's line, let's talk about the physical technique of actually playing octaves. It is important to be loose when doing these lines. Practice slow and get used to how it feels. One of the things that I like to do is just practice scales and arpeggios in octave form. Let's look at an example of each of these. Example number 1 deals with the major bebop scale in the key of G major, starting on the 3rd. Remember to play through this slow and relax. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Example number 2 uses the G major 7 arpeggio and uses the full range of the neck. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to take these exercises and expand upon them. Do different positions on the guitar instead of just the 3rd. Do different arpeggios instead of just G major 7. Once you feel you have a solid grasp of these exercises, I want you to take some simple bebop language and put it in octave form. Remember, there is not octave language versus single note language. It's all just language. I want to finish up this lesson by taking some of the concepts that we covered in Wes's line and talk about how we can put them into our own improvisation. These concepts being enclosures, guide tones, and chord extensions. I've put together a line using these 3 concepts. Let's take a look at it. Here's the line. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So first off, we have our guide tone line, which is C, B, A, G, F sharp. Then we have a kind of counter line to our guide tone line, just like Wes had in his solo, going the opposite direction. So this one goes up. Lastly, we end on an extension, just like Wes did in his line. Once we hit our 7th, we jump up to the 13th, an extension, and then glide down to the 9th. Thanks for taking your time and watching this video. If you'd like some more info on Wes, check out my video on his block chord soloing technique, here. Also, if you'd like a Skype lesson, send me an email. Lastly, I have the whole transcription of Wes's solo over Gone with the Wind available on my website with tab. I hope you enjoy, and remember to always keep swinging.